I ended my engagement to my fiance after she wanted a break to explore her ex. I sold our house and disappeared. Hello, everyone. After what feels like an eternity, I, 27 male, decided it was time to discuss what has been going on with me recently. Here's the thing. Until lately, I thought I was marrying the love of my life, Tessa, 26 female. We'd been together for 4 years, and for the most part, I thought we were solid. But now I'm sitting here wondering why I didn't see this coming sooner. Tessa and I met at a birthday celebration, introduced by a mutual friend. She was humorous, confident, and had a no-nonsense approach that I enjoyed. I dated previously, but no one connected with me as she did. We hit it off quickly and moved in together after a year. Things felt natural, as if we were all on the same page about professions, marriage, and eventually creating a family. She was a freelance graphic designer, and I worked as a project manager for a technology business, so our schedules were very similar. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was enjoyable. We had been discussing getting married for a time, but it wasn't until last year that I proposed. Nothing fancy, just a simple supper at home for the two of us. Tessa seemed thrilled. She cried, hugged me, and agreed. That night we began to envision our future. A fall wedding, a limited guest list, and this charming little site by the lake. It seemed like everything was falling into place, or so I thought. The initial red flags were little and evident. They were little sneaky flaws that I ignored because I didn't want to overthink. For example, Tessa's enthusiasm for wedding preparation faded after a few months. She was all in at first, sending me Pinterest boards, searching through wedding outfits, and asking about small details like whether I preferred tulips or roses for the centerpieces. But suddenly, it simply stopped. I'd ask her questions like, "Hey, have you chosen your bridesmaids yet?" And she'd shrug it aside. "Not yet, I'm still thinking about it," she'd say. Again, the same thing happened with her clothing, cake, and music. Every decision we'd been so enthused about had become something she wanted to postpone. "There's still time," she'd say. The wedding seemed like an afterthought. At the time, I told myself it was just stress. Wedding planning can be overwhelming, right? Plus, Tessa had a lot going on at work. I assumed she'd snap out of it eventually. What I didn't realize was that her lack of enthusiasm wasn't about the wedding, but about us. The true slap in the face happened one night while we were out with some friends. Someone brought up the dumb TikTok game, which you've probably seen. It's the one where you have to answer personal questions while keeping a straight face and not passing judgment. Everything was going well until someone said, "If you could relive one relationship, which would it be?" Without thinking, Tessa responded, "Oh, probably Dylan." Just like that. Dylan, her college ex, the person who cheated on her. The moment she uttered that, the room became awkwardly quiet. She giggled awkwardly and attempted to backtrack, saying, "I mean, not that I'd want to. It's just a significant element of my past." I wanted to confront her right there, but we were among friends, so I let it go. Later, when we were alone, I asked her about it. What was it about Dylan? Why would you choose to revisit that relationship? She simply shrugged it off as if it were no big thing. "It was a stupid game, Liam. Don't take it so seriously." She grinned and shifted the subject. I didn't press it because, honestly, I didn't want to start a battle over something that could have been minor. But deep down, it stayed with me. Following that, her behavior became more difficult to ignore. She was using her phone more frequently, going through her texts with a cheeky little smile. She began creating vague explanations for why she couldn't hang out, or why she would cancel plans at the last minute. "Oh, sorry, I just have a lot of work to catch up on tonight," she'd typically remark, or "I promised my mom I'd visit this weekend." The justifications were not particularly suspicious, but they were stacking up. It seemed like I had become less a priority. Then came Friday night, which changed everything. I arrived home from work early, excited to spend the evening with Tessa. I was hoping we might order in and binge watch something, a quiet night. When I came in, however, the atmosphere seemed odd. She was seated on the couch, holding her laptop, but she wasn't working. She was staring at the screen, absolutely unfocused. "Hey, I'm home," I murmured, hoping to relieve the tension. "You're early," she said, as if it were a negative thing. I shrugged it off and went into the kitchen to begin preparing dinner. But the silence in the house was oppressive. Usually, she'd ask how my day was or tell me about her own. What about tonight? Nothing. Finally, I looked around and asked, "Is everything okay?" She shut her laptop and glanced at me. "Actually, there's something I need to talk to you about," and my stomach sank. You know how you feel when you know something horrible is going to happen, but you can't stop it. That was me, standing there like an idiot with a spatula in one hand. I approached and sat across from her. "All right," I said. "What is going on?" She paused, as if she were trying to find the proper words. She just came out with it. "I've been thinking about us and about Dylan." I swear that I almost laughed. "Dylan? Are you serious? What about him?" She bit her lip and avoided my gaze. "I suppose I need some time to consider things through. I'd like to take a break and see whether there's still something there with him." I couldn't believe what I heard. "Do you want to take a break and date your ex? Are you out of your mind, Tessa? We're engaged." "It's not like that," she responded hurriedly, as if she could smooth things up. "I just want to know if I'm making the right choice with you, and if it doesn't work out, I pledge to come back." That's when I discovered how deep her chutzpah was. She assumed I would sit around and wait for her to decide whether I was good enough. Something inside me moved at that very instant. I did not yell or blow up. I just sat there staring at her, wondering how the hell I hadn't seen this coming. I wasn't sure how to answer at first. My fiance recently informed me that she wants to take a break to explore things with her ex, Dylan. What can you say to that? Finally, I asked, "So, what does this break mean to you?" My voice came out calmer than I felt. She straightened up slightly, as if she had been ready for this conversation. "I believe we need some space to figure things out. I'll take some time to see if my feelings for Dylan are genuine, and you are welcome to ponder on us as well." Well, I couldn't believe the audacity. "Wait," I replied, leaning forward. "You're saying you need to date your ex, but I need to reflect on us. What kind of backwards logic is that?" Tessa sighed as if I were the one acting unreasonable. "It's not about you doing something wrong, Liam. This is about me figuring out what I need." She seemed to have practiced this. The way she spoke, the way she avoided eye contact, it was as if she had already decided this was going to happen and simply wanted me to accept it. "You know this sounds insane, right?" I muttered. "You don't just put your fiance on hold while you go play what if with some guy who treats you like garbage." Her face tightened, and for the first time, I realized how stubborn she could be. "I'm not asking for permission, Liam. I'm telling you what I need." That one landed differently. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was angry. I stood up and began pacing, hoping to calm myself down. "So what, Tessa? You're just going to pack a bag and head over to Dylan's place? Is that your big plan?" "No," she insisted. "It's not like that. I don't know what it looks like yet, but I need clarity before we move forward. I owe it to myself to know I'm making the right decision." "You owe it to yourself?" I asked, laughing cruelly. "And what about what you owe me? We're engaged, Tessa. We're supposed to be building a life together, and now you're telling me you need to test drive your ex to make sure I'm good enough?" "I never said you weren't good enough," she replied, her voice rising. "But if we're going to spend the rest of our lives together, I have to be certain, and right now, I'm not." That was it. She wasn't simply interested in exploring things with Dylan. She was also unsure about me. even after 4 years together and all of our plans. She was still unsure. It struck me all at once. She hadn't realized how painful and stupid her plea was. She believed this was reasonable, that I'd just sit there while she figured out whatever foolishness was going through her head. I stopped pacing and glanced at her, really stared at her. "You know what? Sure," I responded, my tone bland. "Take your break." She blinked, surprised by how quickly I agreed. "Liam, I'm not trying to hurt you. I need space to figure things out." I nodded and kept my expression bland. "All right, if that's what you need." She paused, as if she expected me to argue or fight for her. When I didn't, she stood up, took out her laptop, and murmured, "I'll stay at my mom's for a bit. This isn't forever. We'll talk when I've had some time, okay?" "Okay," I replied simply. She looked at me, wondering how to answer, and then disappeared into the bedroom. I could hear her moving around and throwing items into a bag. I remained calm on the couch, but my mind was already turning. If she really wants a break, that's okay. Let her have it. Several minutes later, I heard the front door close. She was gone, perhaps believing she had abandoned me here to wait and worry. She had no idea I was not going to sit around and do nothing. She could have her fantasy, but I had other ideas. Now, I'll provide an update once I've set some things in motion. This is not going to end the way she expects it to. Update 1. Thank you for your feedback and suggestions on my last post. A lot has happened this week, and I'd like to report how things are going. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone in this community for their wonderful support. Many of you mentioned that I don't just sit around waiting, and you were correct. I've been busy putting everything into motion. First, I called my pal Noah. He's been my best friend since college, and he's not the type of man to sugarcoat things. After hearing the full story, he brought over pizza, and we spent the entire night scheming. "Dude, you realize she's going to try to crawl back once things don't work out with Dylan, right?" Noah reminded me. He was correct, of course. The more we talked, the more obvious it became that I needed to be proactive. This was not about vengeance. It was about regaining control of my life. I began with the house. Tessa doesn't seem to recall that it's entirely in my name. She loves to act as if it's our home, always talking about the curtains and paint colors she chose. Yet I'm the one who pays the mortgage. I phoned a realtor first thing Monday morning. The realtor came by to see the property, and we decided to list it right away. The market in our neighborhood is now hot, and we already have several potential purchasers. Tessa has no idea. She probably believes I'm sitting here in our shared home, waiting for her to sort out her feelings. The next step was to gradually remove her from my life. You remember the live laugh, love placards she insisted on putting up? Gone. Did she have to have those beautiful throw pillows? Donated. Her clothing and personal belongings that she left behind. I carefully packaged them all up, but this is where I became strategic. Instead of just dropping her belongings off at her mother's house or having her come fetch them, I hired a moving company. They took everything to her mother's house and left a short note. "Here's your stuff. Good luck with Dylan." I know some of you may think this is petty, but I disagree. I'm not being vengeful. I'm being efficient. She wanted some room to think things through. Well, she's got it, literally. The most fascinating moment came when mutual friends began asking questions. Instead of playing the victim or slandering her, I simply stated the truth. Tessa decided she needed to explore things with her ex before committing to marriage. I decided I deserve better than being someone's backup plan. You should watch how people respond to that. No drama, no accusations, just facts. It's amazing how rapidly the story changes when you don't try to control it. I have also been making moves at work. I applied for a position at our West Coast office that I'd been considering for a long time. If the house sells, which seems quite likely, and I get this job, I'll be starting over on the other side of the country. Tessa has attempted to contact me several times this week, first with lighthearted texts like, "Hope you're doing okay," and progressing to increasingly concerned messages when she learned I was actually making changes rather than simply waiting around. Yesterday, she was in a panic when her mother informed her that the boxes had been delivered. "What are you doing? Why are you acting like this is over?" I kept my response simple. "Because it is over, Tessa. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." She began crying, claiming that she simply wanted time to figure things out, that I was being quick, and that this was not what she meant when she asked for a break. "What did you expect?" I questioned her. "That I'd sit here like a faithful puppy while you test drove your ex? That's not how this works. But what if I realize you're the one I want?" She was weeping. "Then you'll have learned a valuable lesson about not taking people for granted," I said, before hanging up the phone. "The weird thing is that I'm no longer upset. Instead, I feel liberated. Every box I pack, every move I make feels like I'm reclaiming parts of myself that I didn't realize I'd given up." Noah came by again yesterday to assist me with packing the house. He also saw the change in me. "You seem different," he observed, "more focused." He's correct. I'm different. When Tessa first revealed her desire to pursue things with Dylan, I felt like my world was falling. Now I see it wasn't my world collapsing, but rather the false reality I'd been living in finally disintegrating. I have more things in the works, but I will hold them for the next update. For the time being, I'll simply say this. Sometimes the greatest way to respond to someone treating you as an option is to completely remove yourself from their list of options. Stay tuned. This narrative hasn't ended yet, and I have a feeling Tessa is finding that her break to straighten things out isn't going to go nearly as planned. Update 2. I appreciate all of the feedback on my recent update. Things have escalated significantly, and I'd like to tell you how the situation has evolved. Remember how I mentioned applying for the West Coast position? Okay, I got it. The timing could not be better. The house is under contract, and the closing is slated for next month. But that's only the beginning. What's particularly interesting is how Tessa's Dylan exploration is unfolding. Through mutual connections, I discovered that their restored passion isn't quite the fairy tale she envisioned. Apparently, 4 years haven't changed him much. He's still the untrustworthy guy who cheated on her in college. But here's when it gets good. Tessa has attempted to control the narrative on social media. She has been sharing vague, inspiring phrases about finding yourself and following your heart. So, I decided to play the same game, but with a twist. I created a single factual post update on my life. Excited to announce I've accepted a position in San Francisco. Sometimes when one door closes, better ones open. Looking forward to this new chapter. The comments and texts began pouring in. People congratulated me, inquired about the relocation, and of course, wondered about Tessa. I kept my answers basic and honest. We're no longer together. She wanted to explore other options, so I'm exploring mine too. This set off a fantastic chain reaction in our social circle. Remember those friends who weren't sure about the situation? Watching me handle this with grace as Tessa shares cryptic relationship quotations completely changed the atmosphere. Then came the professional consequences. Tessa's freelance design employment is primarily based on recommendations and networking. Sarah, 29 female, a mutual contact in the computer field who used to refer many clients to Tessa, contacted me. "I need to know what happened," Sarah explained over coffee. "Tessa is telling people you're having a temporary separation to grow individually, but something feels off." I shared with Sarah Tessa's note about wanting to date Dylan. Sarah's look said it all. She did not believe it. By the end of the week, numerous potential clients had pushed back their projects with Tessa, not because I said anything nasty, but because, honestly, Who wants to work with someone who takes commitment so lightly? Tessa sensed the shift. Her texts became more frequent and frantic. Why are you telling people about Dylan? You're ruining my reputation. This isn't fair. I just needed time to think. I answered to the last one. You got what you wanted, time and space. How I spend mine is no longer your concern. Then came the turning point. Dylan, in his wonderful wisdom, shared a photo of them together at the restaurant where Tessa and I had our first date. It was evident she was attempting to recreate our history with him. It was both sad and funny. The post didn't last long, but the damage was done. Our friends witnessed it, and the remaining few individuals who supported Tessa's Finding Myself story lost respect for her. Even her own sister contacted me. I'm so sorry about how she's handling this. You deserve better. What is the most satisfying part? I didn't have to be vengeful. I simply lived my life freely and honestly, whereas Tessa attempted to play both sides. The truth has a way of emerging. She visited my office yesterday. Dylan seemed to have already revealed his true colors, flirting with other women, being untrustworthy, a familiar story. She was crying. I made a huge mistake, she cried. I was scared of commitment. I thought I needed to know if there was something better out there, but I was wrong. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I simply gazed at her calmly. No, Tessa. The best thing that ever happened to me was you showing your true colors before we got married. She attempted to argue, claiming that we could fix this, that she would go to counseling, and that she would prove she could be trusted again. I simply shook my head. You don't get it, do you? This isn't about Dylan anymore. This is about you thinking you could keep me as a backup while you explore your options. That's not love, that's convenience. She left my office distraught, but I felt better than ever. The house closes next week. The majority of my belongings are packed, and my new life in San Francisco begins in a month. The funny thing is that some folks think I'm being overly tough. Everyone makes mistakes, they explain. However, this was not a mistake. It was a choice. There were actually several options available. Each time she texted Dylan, every time she lied about where she was, she spent every second planning to put our relationship on hold. These were all options. I'll provide another update once the move is complete. For the time being, I'll leave you with this. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, but rather getting better. And this is exactly what I'm doing. Next update, Update 3. Thank you for following my journey. This will be my final update, and I have some interesting developments to report. San Francisco is everything I imagined it would be. My new apartment has a stunning view of the bay, and the tech scene here is fantastic. My new office team is fantastic. It's refreshing to be around people who prioritize growth and innovation over drama. But first, let me catch you up on how things ended back home. The closing went smoothly, and the house actually sold for more than the asking price. It was interesting to see Tessa's reaction after finding out through mutual friends. She didn't believe I'd sold the house until she drove by and saw the new owners move in. Here's where it got really interesting. Remember Dylan? He reached out to me, of all people. He sent me a long message about how he never meant to cause problems and that Tessa had contacted him first, months before she requested the break. Tessa had been planning her little exploration for quite some time. She had been messaging Dylan for months, carefully laying the groundwork for her backup strategy. What's with the irony? Dylan ended their relationship because, as he put it, if she could do this to you, she could do it to anyone. Tessa's professional fallout has been significant. Remember all the clients she'd lined up? Most of them discovered other designers, not because I said anything, but because word spreads in the industry. One of her largest clients really contacted me. We heard what happened with the engagement, they told us. We're looking for someone who can commit to long-term projects. Do you know any reliable designers? I recommended a talented acquaintance of mine, and she received the contract. Karma, I suppose. Tessa's social media meltdown has been something to see. Then came the sorrowful quotations about losing your sweetheart, followed by angry posts about toxic people who can't handle growth. Finally, she made urgent attempts to show everyone how delighted she was. The final one was quite interesting. She wrote about beginning her own design firm. 3 days later, she began sending out job applications. Last week, her sister contacted me again. Tessa has apparently been staying with their parents, stating she needs time to heal from our separation. Her sister's exact words were, "She really thought you'd wait for her. When you sold the house and moved, it broke her fantasy completely." The most reassuring moment occurred during a video call with our old friend group. They were telling me about local gossip, and someone described seeing Tessa at a coffee shop explaining to a potential customer why her portfolio website was down. Apparently, she forgot that I was the one who set it up and maintained it. She couldn't figure out how to restore her hosting membership when it expired. Not my concern anymore. My new life here is coming together well. I've joined a local rock climbing club, begun taking Spanish lessons, and even adopted a dog from a local shelter. His name is Sammy, and he's a greater companion than my ex-fiance. The tech community here is really inviting. Last week, I was invited to speak at a developer conference, which would not have happened if I had stayed at home. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're not dragging dead weight. I had one last interaction with Tessa. She sent me an email requesting some old images from our shared cloud storage. I had previously downloaded what I wanted and terminated the account several weeks ago. Her email stated, "I know you're trying to erase me from your life, but you can't just delete our memories. Those 4 years meant something." My reply was simple, "You're right. Those years taught me what I don't want in a partner. Thanks for the lesson." Some mutual acquaintances believe I am being very harsh and should be more understanding of her moment of confusion. However, that wasn't a moment. It was a calculated decision to keep me as a safety net while she pursued what she believed to be a better option. What is the most important thing I've learned from all of this? Sometimes the worst things that happen to you result in the best outcomes. If Tessa hadn't shown her true colors, I could have married her, only to learn her genuine personality years later, possibly with children in the mix. Instead, I'm in a lovely city with a wonderful job, making new friends, and feeling optimistic about the future. The anguish of betrayal has been replaced by thankfulness for the bullet avoided. Thank you to everyone who has followed the story and offered advice. Your encouragement helped me remain strong when I might have faltered. And for anyone going through a similar situation, know this: when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't wait around for them to alter their mind about you. Life is too short to be someone's backup plan. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and make things better for yourself. That's it for now, guys. This chapter of my life has officially ended, and I couldn't be more excited for the next one to begin.